Yeah, God is trans. Hey everyone, it's R. I know I haven't posted in a while, and hopefully I will be more regular, but school has started back up for me. So I'm in the midst of classes and reading and doing work and working on my thesis, which I'm loving doing, and it brings us to the topic of the video, um, non-binary gods, deities, things like that. And coincidentally, this is what my thesis was about. Um, the working title is called Liminality, Trans Identity as God's Identity. Um, and I basically say God is trans in it. What I want to do with this video is kind of just present a lot of my thought and a lot of my research, and hopefully get it put out there and see how people receive it and see how it gets heard, and hopefully it'll turn out good. So to begin with, whenever I think about God, we have a lot of feminist discourse in theology that talks about God being female or God being she, and why God can't be male, because if God is male, then male is God, and you get this superiority type thing, which is completely true. However, I feel that the same is true for God being within that binary, or being just one binary or the other. What I begin to look at is how trans and non-binary people kind of exist in a space of liminality. Liminal being an in-between space, is what it's called, existing betwixt and between. And that's where I feel the trans identity, non-binary identity is. So you have that space where you exist in between, and in between two parts. So you have the binary, right, that we talk about, and I'm sure everyone who's watching kind of knows that binary, the male-female binary, and how people subscribe to one or the other, or how we're often assigned to, and society tries to reinforce the subscription to that binary. We encounter problems. Anytime we have a binary schema, it's very problematic in general. So Mary Daly, who's a feminist theologian, actually talks about being more androgynous in society, and going towards a more androgynous view of society, which I don't disagree with. I do disagree with some of her later work, which is very transmisogynistic, where she says essentially that trans women could never be women, which was a big feminist push at that time, very transmisogynistic. But I think we have to go a step beyond that, and view God as trans, and view God as non-binary in those spaces. A lot of theological thought in the definitely Jewish and definitely Christian faiths is that God is transcendent, and the root of that word is trans, right? Trans is Latin for to cross over, to be between, to, right? And so that's where I get this idea that God is trans. There's a philosopher named Emmanuel Levinas who actually talks about God existing in the face of the other person, that the humanist that you see in others, specifically others that are your opposites, right? If you're the oppressor, then it's the oppressed, right? The face that you see there, and in order to see God, you have to see God present within them. That humanist is very important for that aspect. And Martin Buber, another philosopher, says that God exists in the space between us. And it's my view that for that to be the case, God has to be able to transcend, to cross over. And that's why I believe God is trans. Furthermore, I believe that one of our deepest calls is to be authentic, is to be truly ourselves, whomever that is. I think what's very problematic is that when people come out as trans or non-binary or even gay sometimes, people will talk about how God doesn't make mistakes. And while I think that's true, I believe that the mistake is that we're not listening to people when they tell us what God made them. We don't listen to people about them becoming their authentic selves. So in this view, sin is anything which limits our capacity to be fully ourselves. And that could be an internal sin that's stopping you, or it could be a societal sin that neglects treatment, that neglects your ability to get proper medical attention, proper care, even use the pronouns, right? And furthermore, your your godliness of being authentic extends so far as you stop someone else's authenticity or ability to be authentic. And so I believe that whenever we look in the mirror and we find who we are, I believe that that is what God is. God is in that transcendent nature, in that trans aspect of becoming who society perhaps placed upon us to be, and who we're finding ourselves to be. Even if they're the same person, you're still going through a process of becoming more authentically yourself, which is godly, and which is what God is, which is what God calls us to be. We have all this wilderness experience as an example in the Jewish and Christian faiths about going out to the wilderness and being called. And that's what it is. It's not an experience of just being called to God. It's an experience of being called to yourself. We go out to the most God-forsaken places, and there's God, right? Seemingly impossibly, but God's there. Live as yourself, be yourself, figure out who that is. Find God in that, and find God in other people, and allow God to exist there. It's a very shortened version, very abbreviated version. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'd love to answer them. If you want a follow-up video, let me know. I'll try to post one on my personal vlog channel. Yeah, so God is trans. Peace.